And first thing first, let's have a roll call. I will start with myself. I'm here. Byers is here. Ray?
Johnson present.
And Mike?
Hang on just a second. I'm gonna put you on hold. Just a sec. We can't hear Mike. Mike is muted.
Yeah, Mike was on before and then he muted himself.
He just called and he said he,
That happened last night too.
Yeah, okay.
Whatever he did last night, he needs to do again.
You don't show that.
If you can
You
hear
don't
us,
show that on
Mike,
my end.
if you can hear us,
Mike?
it's his button on his computer.
Yeah, he was in for a second.
he said that it happened with you, I guess, yesterday, and whatever
Yes.
you did yesterday, you need to do again or something. Do you understand?
Turn the volume up on his computer.
Yeah, that was it. His
It's
volume.
still not
yeah.
working.
That's what he did.
Okay. All right, hang on.
On his keyboard.
Okay. Okay. Do you want me to just keep you on like speaker here? I can put you on my phone and put you on speaker.
Okay, whatever he pushed, the button he pushed yesterday,
He said he's done that and it's still not working.
but he's showing is online here.
He said for you guys to go on ahead with the meeting and he'll give us a sign if he wants to speak until we figure it out. So he said, go ahead with the meeting. Okay, Mike, sorry.
Why does he try to exit out and come back in again?
That might be.
He said he did.
He restarted his computer.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Do you want to, Mike, did you try restarting the whole computer?
Like, go back to the email and come back in.
He did that, he said.
Okay. So at this point, we will note that Mike can be reached on audio by phone. And we do have Ray Johnson, myself, and Mike thus here. And Robert D'Alessandro. Robert? Also, and Debbie Ardolino present.
Here.
Okay, so everyone is present, Mike by audio at this point, and we will work with that as the night goes on, as the meeting goes on. Let's move to the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Jessica?
Give me one moment. I'm admitting Mike once more.
All right.
Connecting to audio.
Hello?
You there,
I'm here.
Mike?
Mm,
You see you.
We still can't hear him though.
All right, what?
Yeah, he sees us, but he just can't hear.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, my suggestion is he's got a cell phone. Have him call us, join the meeting on his cell phone. That happened to me last month. I
Okay,
just did it on the cell.
right. So at this point, we are ready to take the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jessica. It's a little tough, but it works.
You're welcome.
So at this point, we will move on to item E, which is our patrol report as it was delivered by Officer Sam Perez. Sam.
Sorry about that. Well, first of all, good evening. It's good to see everybody again. One
Good to
version,
see
I
you.
believe. Thank you. This last pay period, there wasn't anything of great significance, thank God. The only thing I saw in trends was that right now I'm currently working with the district, Jim, in terms of getting more investigative aids to assist the post office with their mail thefts. So I've also made contact with our actual mailman for Deleuze, and I provided him with my cell phone number.
Okay.
I basically told him the moment he discovers anything or he's notified of anything on our mailboxes, whether it be tampering, drilling out locks, the actual theft of mailboxes, to text me, and then I will in turn get back to the district as fast as I can to try to, I guess, review the evidence from my investigative aids that are out there. So
Okay.
that's what I'm trying to do in terms of our mail theft problem. But once again, from talking to the mailman, he's basically saying that this mail theft, it's across the United States right now. It's not localized to our county or state. It's a national level, most likely because of the COVID. And then, of course, with a possible second, with a second check coming out for stimulus, they'll probably increase in mail thefts. So also from talking to the mailman, there's no time frame or days of the week that is happening specifically. It's random. It's happening during the week, weekends, but there's no actual, like, it's happening on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, or Fridays. It's not specific, it's random. So I would try to adapt to that. I've already spoken to Jim about that, and I'll be adjusting my hours again to come in if it's if we can identify it's happening at nighttime. I'll be here in the nighttime trying to deal with that issue. Other trends that I've noticed, this was kind of interesting one, is that we've gone call service based off of Via Santa Rosa, where calls for squatters. Basically, people are going up here, locking the gate with the chain, because they're vacant residences, as we say. That happens. If you're the property owner, don't make contact with whoever in the residence. Just back away. If you have cell reception, contact law enforcement and allow us to contact who's ever in that residence. Okay. We've had a couple also, and on the same token, it helps us if you're present at the property. I'm not saying in the residence, but I'm saying that we can meet at an intersection and drive there together and then enter the property, because we can't go over the phone and say, report, there's someone in my residence squatting, and then us show up there and force our way in. We can't do that for liability reasons, obviously. So if you report that, make sure you're present. That way you can give us access to the residence, specifically the gates. We're not gonna chop a lock off a gate because someone calls and says there's someone there. Okay, so that's basically it for my report. Anybody have any questions?
I would have a question regarding the post office thefts. I know that you bought some cameras that was supposed to help a little bit. And I don't know, have you had any video, or is there anything the district can help you with to improve the quality of the video, or when it turns on?
Yes, I'm currently working with Jim regarding purchasing some more investigative aids to help identify the subjects.
Good. Okay. I don't know, Jim, is this equipment to get that, is that within your purview? Do you need any board authorization and put it on the agenda, or can you do that within your jurisdiction?
In days gone by, the kind of equipment that Sam is talking about was very expensive. But a year or so ago, he came in with a catalog or whatever, And the pricing was so low, I couldn't believe it. Now, that's still not. It's almost like us buying office supplies here. So that's where I charge it
Yeah.
off to. So for the time being, with the kind of equipment he's using, we're fine, just within our budget. If he wants something fancier though, I'm gonna send him to the board. So yeah, he may be back with something more expensive, but
Okay.
this is relative. This is petty cash kind of thing.
Okay. And these aids, these cameras are able to turn on and catch anybody in action at any time, or is it a delayed reaction?
How do they work, Sam? I think we're safe to be more candid, Sam.
Yes.
We don't have any audience, outside audience, so they're not gonna blow your cover or, hear your. But go ahead and tell them a little more.
Basically, what I've done is we've in the past we've purchased cameras. We've put them inside containers that blend in with the environment. We've
Great.
identified there's 14 mailboxes in the district. Mailbox locations that it was. So I'm trying to find cameras that could blend in and quite frankly not get stolen. So
Yeah.
that's work around that effort, like trying to get something small and that blend in and that can work around.
We hear you, Mike. Oh, I'm
Hi, Mike.
sorry, Mike, come in, we heard you. Mike, we're
Okay,
good.
now you can hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yep. we sure
Sorry.
can.
Sorry. Go ahead, continue.
So basically, like I was saying, is that we identified the 14 locations that we have community mailboxes out there. We're trying to identify cameras that will work out there with a low risk of them being stolen, quite frankly. And the cameras that I have right now, they're motion activated, so there's no
Okay.
motion, no film.
Good.
And the battery packs, depending on the activity level, if I put it on Sandia Creek during rush hour, during normal circumstances, it'll last me 2 days because of the traffic.
Yeah.
But in mailbox areas don't have that much traffic for the most part, and from what I've seen, they can last almost like 4 to 5 days, and that's well within
Okay.
here. And so when the mailman says, "Hey, this happened," I can go back there, pull the footage, and find out what time frame is happening. And I've actually used those cameras to catch people doing illegal dumping, and the clarity is outstanding in terms of
Yeah.
plate numbers and everything.
That's great. Okay, well, we're really happy to hear that, and whatever we can do to help the residents, well, within certain limits, but yeah, I'm glad, yeah. Not a carte blanche, but I'm glad that you're really following up with that. We really appreciate that.
No
That's great.
problem.
Yes, so thank you so much. Excellent work as always. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. I see is public comments. Do we have anybody who's called in or written in with any questions or concerns to the board?
No.
Jessica?
Yep, there's no, not so far.
Okay, then we will move on to item D, the information only, which is the financial statements and statement of investment policy. If I remember correctly, the financial statements will be forthcoming next month. Is that
Yeah.
correct, Teresa?
That's
Yes.
right. We're just still furiously working with FEMA, and also my audit for this fiscal year started up. So I'm working with the auditors too. So they'll be coming next month.
Okay, so does any board member or anybody have a question or follow-up on this item? No? In that case, we will move on to item E, the consent calendar, which if we have any questions or requests that an item be removed, then we can act upon that separately. Otherwise, I would like to have a motion that item 1 through 4 be approved.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, starting with Mr. Johnson?
Johnson, aye.
Mr. Adams?
Aye.
Byers, aye. Mr.
Sandry,
D'Alessandro?
aye.
And Ms. Adelino?
Bartolino, aye.
Okay, thank you. So all in favor, we have approved that. We move on to item F, which is the consideration and second reading of ordinance number 2020-02, which is adopting a 7-ton weight limit on Sandia Creek Road between Avenida del Oro and the southerly district limit. And Steve, that is your item. Would you please inform us?
Yes, ma'am. This is the second reading. I won't go into all the details that we went into last meeting, but Sandia Creek, we want to do is restrict it to match the ordinance that the San Diego County has done for the southerly portion of San Diego Creek between Duluth Road and the southern district boundary. So we're just continuing it from the southern district boundary to Avenida de Oro. So with your approval tonight, that will end the process of allowing to go ahead and install the sign. Staff has ordered the signs, have them there in hand, and they're ready to be installed.
Okay, great. I'm sorry.
I did have
Yes,
one other question I wanted to respond to. At the last meeting, we were asked to determine what the weight limit is for various trucks. And there is a weight limit, axle limit of 10 tons for a single axle and 17 tons for a dual axle. So any trucks that are over those weight limits would be technically overweight and could receive a citation if CHP were asked to go out and enforce it.
That, if I might interject.
Yes, please, go ahead.
That would mean that some of the agricultural vehicles are overweight. Because if you do the math, 17 tons is about 35,000 pounds. And I've seen those trucks have well over 40 bins on them, and then you add the weight of the truck and the flatbed. That's got to be over 35,000 pounds.
And Robert, the answer to that is if the truck is overweight, if it's being overloaded for what the truck is designed to carry, then that does create an unsafe condition that the CHP could enforce. But you'd have to then contact the CHP commercial enforcement group. We'd have to give them, the dates, the times, or something about when they would be in the area for them to check if that were the case.
The other question I had was, what is the capacity for our roads? How much can they bear? I mean, I know that they might be able to bear 80 tons, but what's the safe limit on our roads?
Well, the roads are a function of, and Dave can step in here and give a little better explanation probably, but the roads are a function of the base that is underneath it, the amount of asphalt that you have on the roads. And so the concern, of course, when an overweight vehicle is on there is that it's doing more damage because of the extra pressure it's putting on that road because of the overweightness. An occasional vehicle overweight is probably not going to cause the roads to come unraveled or anything like that. A steady diet of vehicles could eventually cause maybe the road to wear out a little sooner than normal. And Dave, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, no, you're correct. I mean, it can handle an 80,000, truck out there, and it won't damage the road. But over time, if that truck's out there every day, it would do that. There are truck routes established on the main street, and the trucks, let's say they're picking up and delivering, they're allowed to go from the main arterial street to a direct route to where they're going to pick up or drop off. And they're just supposed to keep that to a minimum. the shortest distance between the main street and their site. They can't go wander through the neighborhoods looking for shortcuts or that, or different ways. It's the shortest between the 2 points we're supposed to follow. And that's supposed to keep the long-term wear and tear down. But, certain streets that are built that only have 2 inches of asphalt over native, they're not going to last very long with a truck of that size.
Hello?
Yes.
What I could do is I could call Index Fresh and some of the packing houses, and the trucks come to my house, and I'm looking at my driveway when they back on big giant trucks. So I can find out what their policy is on, first of all, what's the tear weight, what's the gross weight, and do they typically overload the trucks, or are they maintaining of the legal limit? So if you'd like, I can call all the people I know in the avocado industry, unless there's somebody else here that's unfortunately growing avocados, then they can do it. I'm just kidding. I mean,
Go ahead.
Nobody seems to know the exact answer. It's a trick. Robert came up with a trick question, so we need to go find out from the people that are operating the trucks what the weight is.
Right. Also, it seems to me that, it's not day in and day out that you get these overweight trucks, at least that are, that have business in Duluth, right? It is usually during the avocado picking time, right? Which we know happens late in the year and then into spring at some point. I mean, you have that 3-4 months window. And that's pretty much when picking takes place. So you have a certain time of the year where there could be heavy traffic. And the rest of the year, at least district-wise, it has direct business in the district, not so much.
Yeah,
Am I correct?
We don't know if the trucks are overweight.
That's true.
Just because they're picking. I mean, I don't think so. At 800 a bin, and they put a maximum of 20 bins on the shorter trucks. That's 16,000 pounds. That's 8 tons plus the truck. They're not taking 4 tons of avocados.
Right. I had one other question regarding this ordinance, and I know we're on the second reading, and that was, should have thought about that on the first one. But we have the 7-ton weight limit on Sandia Creek Road between Del Oro and the Sauterley District. However, I could very easily imagine that you could have some trucks try and find a way around, like we're having our detour right now, where you probably have some big trucks that are going on De Anza and that whole area. That really should also be subject to the 7-ton weight limit. Perhaps perhaps it should be the whole district. So I just wanted to throw that question first up to Steve and see what you guys think of that.
Well, here's the thing about truck limits and weight limits is that this only applies to, as Dave was kind of explaining earlier, it only applies to vehicles that do not have a direct business in that area. So I'll give you a scenario. Let's say a cement truck has to come in to pour someone's patio, and he's over 7 tons, and he's on La Cruz or something like that. He comes down Avenida de Oro, he comes down Sandia Creek, he goes on La Cruz, and then he goes back out the same way he came. That's perfectly legal, and he could be 20 tons or whatever the number is. He could be over that 7 tons. That's not a violation. So day-to-day operations or deliveries or things like that are not precluded by this ordinance. So again, I don't think you have a problem with the roads wearing out unnecessarily. I don't think you have, this damage that you'd be worried about, happening on a district-wide basis. So there is no advantage of posting the whole district because you can't restrict the whole district anyway. You can only restrict people from cutting through from one street to another street that doesn't need to be there. And you don't really have a network of streets that kind of allows for that.
Okay, so the shortcut or the detour that we currently have, because Sandia Creek is closed, What
can't-
about, you cannot,
You can't
that-
get to Buenos Campos or De Anza or Tierra Rica because you can't go on Sandia Creek to get to that far. So you don't really need to post those.
all right, fair enough. Does anybody have any concerns regarding this ordinance, or any more questions to ask Steve?
President
I still
Byers,
have-
did we read the ordinance, the title of the ordinance last time?
Yes.
I
We
do
did?
believe we did, yes, because I
Alright.
believe I had issues with trying to pronounce it properly, so I think
Yeah,
we did.
Okay, that's fine then. Thank you.
I still have my question, which is, what our roads as they're currently constructed can adequately handle or are designed to handle how many tons? I guess the other way to ask that question is, do we need to do something different as we repair roads, put more base or more surface or whatever to handle the loads that come through? Or is what we are doing currently adequate?
Yeah, I would say what we're doing is adequate, because look at the age of your roads, and if they were inadequate, they would be full of alligator cracks and falling apart, big chunks coming out. That's not the case. Most of your roads are in pretty good condition. So, the roads have been established a long time ago, and the AC over the base. Each road, if you were going to go redesign it, you would design it for its traffic load, would then affect how thick it would have to be, and you go through a traffic index for it, and you go through this whole procedure. I don't believe anybody has done that there. We're kind of going on repair and fix and maintain the roads the way they are. Steve, you have anything to add to that?
I guess the only thing would be is, do we have a pavement management survey that usually does some sort of coring sampling, something to verify what we do have in the way of base?
Okay, well, we have a pavement management survey that just says the conditions of all the roads. They didn't go out and do any coring. They didn't do anything like that.
Okay.
Keith may know more just by digging things up out there, what the roads use, what's the average thickness out there in most roads. A lot of times arterials are, 4 or 5 inches on 8 inches of base or 6 inches of base. And some areas are 2-inch asphalt on 4 inches of base, little local roads, and it varies between those. Collector
But
roads are in between.
We have currently so much more traffic than the roads, back when they were engineered and put into place. I mean, there was a lot less traffic there at that time. So I could imagine a lot of the roads were not engineered for the current amount of traffic that we have here. Would that be right, Keith?
Well, when the roads were designed, in particular Sandia Creek, we didn't do a traffic survey on them. But I can tell you the sections of road throughout Sandia Creek are 3 inches of asphalt. From Rancho California Road, Avenida del Oro, all the way to Via Vaquero is 3 inches of asphalt over 6 inches of class 3 base material. And from Via Vaquero to Carancho is 3 inches of asphalt over 4 inches of base. And from Carancho all the way out to the end of the district is 3 inches of asphalt over 8 inches of cement treated base. And all the roads for the last probably 8 years have been built to that specification, which would be 3 inches of asphalt over 8 inches of cement treated base.
Excellent, excellent. That's good.
And we do follow the county or Riverside standards for any roads that come in there. So,
Right. I was just thinking back when those standards were followed, but they were also for much less traffic at the time. But it sounds like we've really kept up with the times, and we have built up the base. So it's sounds pretty good. Robert, are you happy with the answers to that?
Yes, I am. But I would only also say that there are roads and some portions of Sandia Creek that are in poorer shape or worse shape than other portions.
Mhm.
It may reflect differences in traffic in sections. In other
Yeah,
words,
no-
there may be more going through that area than there is in other areas. So, but I'm happy with the answer you gave, and I think I think it seems to me that we're approaching this the way we should in terms of constructing the roads.
Yeah, and a lot of times you'll find poor conditions or what's happening underneath the base, the old earth underneath. Either it got saturated or it wasn't compacted properly or something like that below the road structure, and it carries on through the section. So,
Okay. So at this point, do we have any further questions or concerns regarding this ordinance, ordinance 2020-02? No? I would like to, yeah. Do we have, Debbie, do you have any questions, any concerns?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm good.
I would like to see if we can have a motion to adopt the ordinance number 2020-02.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
And that is by whom? Because I can't see that.
Yeah, second.
Thank you, Mike. I'm sorry, I just couldn't tell. All right, in that case, let's have a roll call vote, starting with Mr. Johnson.
Johnson, aye.
Mr. Adams?
Adams, aye.
Myers, aye. Mrs. Ellis?
Alessandri,
Yes.
aye, sorry.
Thank you. Mrs. Adelino?
Ardolino, aye.
All right. Well, thank you for that. That was, I think, a very good discussion on the considerations and the issues regarding this ordinance. And we shouldn't be taking any of that lightly since we are putting that in. So thank you for that. We move on to item G, consideration and second reading of ordinance 2020-03, which is establishing speed limits on Buenos Campos Drive from Sandia Creek to Tierra Rica Drive, De Anza Road from Sandia Creek to Tierra Rica Drive, and De Anza Road from Tierra Rica Drive to Cameron Road. And Steve, please.
And same for this one here. We went through this all at the last meeting, but in summary, we're proposing a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit on Buenos Campos and a 35-mile-per-hour limit on De Anza for both of those sections. Staff has ordered the signs and has them ready to install upon approval tonight. And so with that, I'll answer any questions.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions or concerns regarding this ordinance, please? If none, let's, I would like to hear a motion to approve the ordinance 2020-03 for speed limits.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. And roll call vote, starting with Mr. Johnson.
Johnson, aye.
Adams, aye.
Byers, aye.
Alessandri, aye.
And Ms. Ardolino?
Ardolino, aye.
Thank you. So approved. We now have two good ordinances that will definitely help traffic speed and traffic going through our district. So that's great. Moving along to item 8, roadway reconstruction projects. First area being the Sandia Creek and Via Vaquero FEMA sites. And Dave, I believe you have some updates on that.
I do. Our consultant, Ultra Systems, has been out to the site a few times and is busy doing some of their write-up. They also been talking to Keith, and they've established a meeting coming up. We're going to, with the contractor out there, probably to discuss construction methods and how they're going to get into the creek and with their equipment and how far. And then they'll finish up their report so we can get that project moving in. It has been going very slow. They've been blaming the coronavirus for not getting staff out there. They've all were put on kind of furloughs for a while and all this stuff. So it's really kind of messed up the schedule some. I don't know. I can't really give you an idea of when this will all be done yet. Probably by next meeting I will be, but if I told you now, I'd just be guessing, and I'll probably be wrong. So, so anyway, status is they're still working on it, and Keith will be showing around with the contractor out there, so that'll be good.
Does the contractor's bid still hold with all these delays? I would kind of remember there was some kind of a time limitation on the bid.
You know, he said he was going to hold it, and I haven't talked to him in a while. I don't know if Keith, have you talked to him in a while about that, holding on to his bid?
Well, I did talk to Ryan today about it, and he was inquiring about an updated set of plans for the full pipe crossing, and I did tell him to contact you about that.
Okay.
And then also, we do have a 10 o'clock meeting for Friday with myself, Myriad Development, and the environmentalists to survey the trees that are now in the zone for excavation.
Yeah. So I would say that he's still interested, or he wouldn't go out in the field with them. But we will, when we get closer to that point, after I know the environmental is, you know, out to the review period, that's when I'm going to sit down with the contractor and go through any of the changes and make sure that we're all complying with the bid prices we had before and do all that, and then bring it back to the board. So we have time to do that still.
Okay.
All right.
Yep, that's good to know. Thank you. Thank you, Dave. So Buena Vista reconstruction project. There's another item we've been working on for a long time.
Yep, Buena Vista is the new one as far as the environmental goes. We have a different consultant on that called Rincon, and they've been out in the field several times. They've written up their 2 reports, one on wildlife and one on the plants, and then they designated the floodway, the wetlands areas, and all that. I've read through it. It just came in on Monday. Some of their concerns they were looking for was endangered species of plants and animals. They didn't find any plants that were endangered. They found a lot of poison oak, as you all aware. You guys have poison oak out there, but that's not endangered.
Are they endangered? Darn.
Yeah, it's not. One of the things they were looking for was a little white freshwater shrimp that kind of lives in some of the creeks up in here. They didn't find anything of those, so that's good. So yeah, they kind of looked through everything, and so they're, after Ron and I, my office, we review all this, then we're going to give them a go ahead to then submit. They're going to need to submit to the County of Riverside, the Corps of Engineers 404, stream alterations called a 1601 permit, and several other permits. And we're going to give them a go ahead to get all that started. They may come back and say they want some additional studies. Sometimes they do that depending on that. It's a lot bigger area. Well, it's a longer reach because of the depth of there and the fill that's going in. It's a little bit more complicated environmentally than the other. So somebody can go back and say, well, you need to look at this or that, but hopefully that will not be the case. We'll find out. So anyway, they're progressing along nicely, and they're doing a good job so far.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
I might have missed something, but we haven't started the Sandy Creek or the Via Vaquero project, right? We're still waiting for all of these approvals.
Correct.
What are the, is there any inclination or possibility that won't get approved? I mean, it seems like there's a lot of delay tactics, and I know all the paperwork and how it goes on for years and everything. But what's the chances that they might come back and say, guess what, guys, there's some other, an owl in a tree or something, and then we're not going to approve it?
No, they won't come back and say you can't do it. Worst case scenario, they'd come back and say, you can't build in the nesting season of a certain bird that lives out there. You are taking, you're working in the wetlands, and therefore we want to see mitigation measures where you will go restore wetlands in some other area of what the district owns, things like
Okay.
that. They won't come out and just deny it. They
Because
may
it's
come out on things like, we want more of this or that, which
yeah.
in the bottom line means it costs us a little bit more money to actually do all that, but they won't come back and say you cannot do it. There's nothing out there that says that.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's just me. It seems like we've been dealing with this for years.
We have been, but we did change the ball game last March when FEMA came back and said, we'll pay for you to remove the entire pipes all the way through and forget the lining. We'll pay for all that. And that extended the limits about 40 to 60 feet out that we didn't have in there before. I can't go back out with the existing environmental saying, hey, we've met the conditions, when someone come back and say, no, your limits have changed. So we had to go back out for that. But the positive side is we'll get paid for a whole roadway reconstruction with brand new pipes through the whole thing. So you have longer time frame, but you're gonna get a whole new product.
Right. Is one of the reasons why they can't deny, the project getting finished eventually because it's an existing roadway? What if this was brand new?
Oh, if it was brand new, it'd be a whole different ballgame.
That's what I
Because it's an existing roadway, everything was covered in dirt or asphalt. There was nothing growing in that area. So therefore, we're not really taking anything out that was environmentally sensitive because it was already, in their terms, a barren area. If it was a brand new site, they would come back and say, you're taking out an acre of wetlands and all the plants and critters that live there. We want a 3-to-1 replacement of that somewhere else or something like that. That's what they do. It's not a 1-to-1, it's a 3-to-1 or 4-to-1 or whatever they come up with.
Right.
Damn environmental attorneys always screw stuff up like that.
You would know, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I hate to say this, but at the bottom line, the design really never changes from start to finish. It's just the mitigations might change.
Yeah, gotcha. Which makes sense. It's an existing road that, was put in there, and what are you going to do?
Yeah.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Dave regarding these reports? No, we will move on to item I, the slurry seal project at various locations. And that is also you, Dave. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right, we had our bids come in. We had 4 contractors bid on the project, and the prices came in really good. So we're really happy with that. I gave, as part of the staff report, you can see all the unit prices from everybody. We budgeted $600,000 for the slurry seal project, slurry seal and the associated striping that went with that slurry seal. Then we budgeted and we added in here $75,000 of the annual striping into this.
Yep.
So I want to briefly just let you know what Schedule A through D is, just so I want to make sure it was clear. Schedule A is all the streets that we're going to slurry seal and the striping that goes on those streets that we're slurry sealing. So that's like a whole package. Schedule B is, because we're slurry sealing 2 sections of one roadway, there's a gap in the middle. We need to stripe that gap in the middle because of the slurry sealing. You don't want to go from brand new paint to where you can barely see paint to brand new paint again. So that's what B is. Because we were going out to bid with this project, Steve, said, hey, I got a $75,000 annual striping budget. Can we add that? So that's what Schedule C is. It's his annual striping budget. And then I added Schedule D, the final one, was if prices came in good, I can go out and do some more streets on slurry seal if the board and the committee wanted to do that. So D was adding, turned out to be about $51,000 worth of extra slurry sealing. So the low bid came out at $529,000. Again, our total budget is 675. So even with adding D, the extra work, we're still under budget. Now, I do have money that's not in this 529 for engineering and inspection. So, we got to keep that in mind too. But there is some extra budget left over. So in the staff report, I have, our normal 10% contingency, but then I added section 5 of the staff report saying, if the board so chooses, we could actually add more striping to get Steve up to the whole 75,000, because right now his striping came in at 48,000. So he had quite a bit of money left over to do more striping. And then we could do some more slurry seal and keep the whole budget under 75,000. So I kind of threw that in the contingency and bumped the contingency up so that Jim and I could work with the contractor. And if you wanted to do that, I would come up with streets that would that the contractor would add for stripes and striping and slurry seal. I would bring that back to the engineering committee in August and also to the board in August, because that's right about when the contractor would be starting. I'd be negotiating with the contract, make sure he uses the existing bid prices, then bring that back to you if that's something you would like us to do, to spend the entire 675 and get more bang for your buck. If we do all that, you'll get a nice chunk of slurry seal, but then, as Steve said in the past, you will get like 90% of the streets striped, which everybody loves new striping in their streets. So, so that's what's really up for well, there's several things up for discussion, but those are several options I presented, and I hope I'm not too confusing to you, but we can keep it simple and just as bid, approve it, normal stuff, or you can give me the go ahead to add a little bit more to it, but keep it under the 675. And with that, I'm glad to answer any questions.
Board members, please, do you have any questions or comments or anything you want to add to that?
No.
Right?
No.
No. Mike?
No,
okay.
we discussed everything at engineering.
Right. So you discussed it in the engineering here. What conclusion did you kind of arrive at? I'd like to hear what you would recommend to the board at this point.
Me? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What Dave came up with with the addendum, the total of all A, B, C, and D came to 529, and we had a 675 initial budget.
Right.
So that's 146 left. So of that, part of it would go to striping. I forget how much, but I know one thing, it's going to cost a lot of money to part of the extra 146. What did you say? How much goes to figuring out what we're going to do, laying out the design? You told me what, 70,000?
I'm going to look at all the engineering and inspection for the job, no matter what we do. It's probably about $80,000.
Yeah, so we're going to spend another 80,000 on admin.
No, not another 80.
No. Same.
Well, for engineering or whatever.
Yeah, for what we already spent plus inspection, and there's a small amount of other engineering to get all this, add this extra work, but very small.
The conclusion we came up with, long story short, is that we take Steve's idea to finish striping the district and use whatever other money there is to facilitate more slurry seal, and basically use up the budget that we have and get the most done we can possibly do, and make the district as safe and look as nice as possible.
Yeah, when I heard what you guys had been discussing, it sounded like a really good idea to me. That we, simply use up the budget we had allocated and do a couple of change orders to add the additional striping and slurring to the already current
Right.
bid that you have out. Yeah.
They would take that to American Asphalt and they would put out a supplement to American Asphalt, and they would have to bid it at the same price per square foot and type and like kind quality as they did in their original estimate. So it would be a continuation of their existing estimate, spending whatever extra money we have to go as far as we can. I think we should do it. And I think Ray and I both agreed on that.
Right, which is what I was looking for from you. You guys think this is a very good idea. So with that in mind, to the rest of the board, do you have any questions regarding this, or what? Any issues?
It looks like Teresa has a question.
Okay, Teresa.
You're muted. Can't hear you.
Yep.
Be okay?
There.
Okay. If we have I just want to make sure I'm understanding. We have a $675,000 budget. So even whatever additions or addendums we add to this, am I correct in that engineering and inspection will be included in that total 675?
Yes.
Correct? Yes.
Correct.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Any other questions or thoughts on this on this project, on the slurry seal project? If not, let's have a motion to approve this the current slurry seal project, so that we can move forward with that. That would be the first item on this.
This would be the resolution.
Right. Consideration of the resolution that awards the contract at the price of $525,000. So this is the current bid. We're gonna approve that.
And direct staff to go forward with the proposal that brings the total roughly up to, but not to exceed 675, and come back the August meeting with the appropriate.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah. So we can put both things into the same a vote. That would be great. So can we entertain a motion of that?
Also move.
Okay. Thank you. And going forward with the voting, starting with Mr. Johnson.
Johnson, aye.
Mr. Adams.
Adams, aye.
Byers, aye. Mr. D'Alessandro.
Sandri, aye.
And Mrs. Ardolino.
Ardolino, aye.
Thank you. I think this is going to be a very good thing, and I think we're going to make our residents in the district, throughout the district, very happy with that. So thank you very much, everybody. Moving on to item J, committee reports. Engineering committee report, Mike.
Hello.
Please go ahead.
Yes. Well, the engineering committee met on Tuesday, July 14th, 5 p.m. Called to order. Everybody was there. We had no public comment. We approved the minutes. And then Dave went and proceeded to tell us about the things he just told us about. That would be the Rotary construction projects, the Buena Vista construction project, and also we reviewed the 2020 slurry seal project with the additional increase in the project to the full amount of the 675 budget. We also had a field report by Mr. Keith Caddy, and one of the things we also discussed, I asked if there'd been any other traffic studies done, or any increased traffic or anything like that in the district that should be addressed. And Steve said there hadn't been, and he hadn't done a study since December, but there wasn't any reason at this point to do that. And then I also asked, what about the I don't know what you call that group that kept coming in and wanting more police protection and, more CHP, more police and everything. Have we had any comments about that from any district residents. And so the staff said, no, they hadn't had any complaints or any further discussion on that at this time. And so that was about it. If does anybody have any further comments or questions?
No, that sounds like a very thorough report and meeting, and I think we're probably going to go into a little bit more about the residents or the voting to add more special taxes. So that will be coming up during Mr. Simmons' review. Finance Committee report, Robert?
The committee didn't meet, but we'll meet next week.
Okay. Meeting to be coming up. All right, and on the legislative report, the AB 421, not much to report. We are talking about meeting Jim Emmons, myself, and Mr. D'Alessandro, and try and go forward with that, given the present circumstances where county is closed, everything is just hard to deal with. But we're going to try and meet and see what we can come up with in the next couple of weeks. So that is the status on that. General Manager report, Mr. Emmons?
Hey, well, let's see. Two things to talk about today. One is rather trashy. Guess what's coming up Saturday? So I'm not sure if everybody received these in their waste billing, but Saturday is the day. So just an informational item. Twice a year event. But along the lines of CR and R, you may recall that Alex with CR&R came to your meeting, I believe it was November, February. Everything's all muddy. Anyway, 4 or 5 months ago, they gave a report about the studies that they were doing on how to deal with fires in their pickup equipment. And at the time, they were looking at various, alternatives should that occur here in Duluth, how they would handle it, what the protocols would be. I ran into Alex a few weeks ago, and then I called him last week, and I asked him if he could come back and address the board, because they've made success in addressing this situation, and I thought that it would be nice for him to talk to you again with the results. And I believe those results are positive. I don't know a lot about it, but I believe that it has something to do with being able to squelch the fire from within the truck unit itself. But he said he would be available at the next meeting in August. And so if there's no objection, I'll ask him to come and be one of our participants here and give a follow-up report. The last item I have relates to our FEMA project. And we're right in the middle of it. We completed FEMA 23 and 34 about 3 months ago. The rules say that once you complete of the projects, you have 60 days to submit all of your cost information, invoices, and everything to Cal OES. I'm going to digress for a moment and discuss, just as a reminder, the difference between FEMA and OES. We use FEMA because it's easy, okay? When the disaster occurs, first in is us, followed by county emergency services, Riverside County. So when the Valentine's night disaster happened, the next day, Riverside County was out here doing a damage assessment. And ultimately, they bundle it up into a package and submit it to California Office of Emergency Services, who through each county OES, everything is being funneled to the state for one particular area, which is OES in Sacramento. If it's bad enough, the governor declares it a disaster area. And what that does is frees up state money, because the state legislature does put some money into, or has a fund, a reserve, that they can share with local agencies to fix these disasters. If it's bad enough, the federal government, through their congressmen and senators, it's transmitted to the administration disaster situation. And then it's up to the president to decide whether or not the federal government is going to fund, I think it's 85% of disaster care. The process of getting the president to decide, issue the declaration, takes a little time, but work goes on from the moment the disaster occurs. And in our case, Keith and his crews are out immediately. We're hiring independent contractors and that sort of thing immediately. And all of that's running up the bill. And in the hopes in the first days or so is that we're going to pay for this, but we'll get a hand from the state government, because the governor has a disaster area. As time goes on, we're looking at long-term repairs, deciding what needs to be done, how we're going to get these roads open and that kind of thing, designing projects. Then the president makes his declaration, and immediately FEMA, federal, takes control. And that's what happened here. But there was a little beef going on between Newsom and the president, and that delayed the presidential declaration for a little over 2 months. So during that 2 months, we're fixing things and waiting and hoping that it's going to become federal, and it did. And then FEMA came in, took over, and that's when we started working with Bill Cleveland, who worked in your boardroom weekly, oversaw all the work. Teresa was a coordinator of that. Anyway, once it's finished, FEMA's been gone now for over 2 months. So now we go back to the state. So all the paperwork goes to state OES, and here's why. Local governments weren't part of the constitutional process. Going back to 1776, the states created the federal government. So it was federal and state. There were no cities, districts, all that stuff. So when the federal government finances a disaster, the money goes from Washington to the state distributes it to the local governments. We have been advised by our representative at FEMA that Teresa loaded everything up. He's perfectly happy with it, signed off on most everything. FEMA is not our problem. There isn't a problem. I don't know if there is now. But when Teresa submitted all the minimal paperwork, saying that look in the FEMA portal, state, it's all there and done. The state came back last week and said, wait a minute, we've got our own process. Now, this is the first anybody's heard of the state process. So Teresa says, oh, okay, fine, no problem, we got it. What would you like? Why don't you just go over to the FEMA portal? We're all, tied in here together and check it out. And they said, no, you got to redo it all. So Teresa, you've loaded everything into the electronic cloud at FEMA. Can you, on here, just as a kind of a fun thing, show them how much paper you sent to the state in the last week and a half?
Oh.
No, show them. It's on the chair.
Oh, this.
Oh, electronically, then you printed it out?
This is
You
it.
want it the old-fashioned way.
There is no portal per se to load into the state Cal OES.
All that paper you see right there, that over a year and 3 months was just put in electronically to the federal system, and it's there, approved the way they want it, et cetera, et cetera. The state this week said, well, we don't do it that way anymore. We don't do it that way, so send us all the paper. We're right back where the process has somehow gotten changed back to the old-fashioned way. And they are questioning every piece of paper in there. Teresa has just, I don't know how she stands it. I listened to it, all day, and it's been brutal. And Dave and I had a conference call, 2 hours and 15 minutes with the OES people. And I've actually, the guy who's handling it or supervising it, I worked with 2 years ago on Buena Vista. He's a good guy, or was now. But anyway, I just bring that up because it looks like we thought this was going to be smooth, and I don't have any reason to think it's not going to be, but they brought in a consultant. These aren't even state people. The consultant is from Florida, and this wasn't what we were told. They were trying to get rid of all this bureaucracy stuff. And when we had our first meeting in May, right after Trump declared it, and that was down in Ontario, they were bragging about how fabulous the system was. The states and the feds are finally going to be on the same page. And that's all we've heard for a year and 3 months. And now the state's saying, nah, we're doing it the old-fashioned way. Why that is, I don't know. It doesn't really make sense, except a lot of bureaucrats make money. But anyway, so we just thought, so it's kind of melted down our office for the last 2 weeks. Pretty much everybody's working on this project. And Dave and Ron's office, they're getting pummeled. In fact, I had to get Ron do an all-nighter Monday night, which he worked all night. I was monitoring him on my phone, and he finished it at 4:04 in the morning, and we had it to the state by 9 a.m. So a lot of work's going in. We never expected we'd be doing this right now. So I just thought I'd tell you about it. Hey, Teresa, I don't know how she's made it through this. She really has been getting hit by these folks. So,
that's why sometimes you guys, like for the financial statements, you're seeing a memo in there because we're trying to get FEMA money, and that's, so, but yeah.
Priorities.
Yeah.
So we stopped everything 2 weeks ago, and just everything is this project. And it looks like we're about finished with this round this week, hopefully. And we'll keep you. It just amazes me. Dave too, and we were talking about, we're old guys at this. This is like what they went through, 20, 30 years ago before you hardly had, copy machine. And why we're doing this now is kind of beyond us. So who knows? State of California.
Well, I have a question. You mean to tell me that you didn't know for a year and a half that you had to submit anything to California?
No, we were told in a meeting in Ontario that California was all integrated with FEMA.
And then they just told you this out of the blue with no warning.
2 weeks ago. Well, so we made our regular submittal.
Yeah, you still have to submit to Cal OES like we normally do, but they're not even using like the portal. In fact, like Phil Cleveland, our main guy that we followed exactly step by step through this process, who was really happy because we were on top of our game. I mean, we were through this portal, the 12 steps you have to go through FEMA, you know, working hard to get that done. And now they're coming back with Cal OES saying, well, we know most of it's in the portal, but we don't do it that way. This is how we want it. And as Jim said, now that's what we've been working on.
So they wanted spreadsheets a certain way. Let's say, I'll give you an example of what Ron Stein was doing Monday night. And let's say they were horizontal. This lady from Florida says, we don't take that. And we saw it in the portal and it's horizontal. We want it vertical and upside down. And I want it by tomorrow. And he did it. And there's something fishy.
Yeah.
It's extremely tedious, to say the least. So
I know. I know how it is. I submit reports to federal government and state all the time. And
oh, you know the game.
You got to go a certain way on them, but it just surprises me that somebody would not know for a year and for all this time that you would have to submit a certain way or make a phone call and say, hey, how do you guys want this report? And they try to avoid a big bottleneck right now.
We were told that this portal system and cloud that FEMA had or developed, and it's their new system, was going to be the end all, and that was going to fix this problem between the two sets of paperwork. And now the state has decided to continue just doing it their way.
But you have received FEMA money.
yeah.
I'm sorry?
You have received.
Oh,
FEMA.
yeah. And we're going.
On small projects, they
Yeah.
pay you they pay you 75% of your small projects. But it's very complicated. So if you take FEMA 23 and 34, add those projects together, and then they're split up into smaller sections. Some they consider large projects, which they don't pay anything until they're complete, and then they pay the 75% of small projects, which is what we have received to date. 75%.
We'll get more.
We will.
It's just going to take, it's just the fool around time.
Yeah.
It's just dragging their feet, stretching it out. So anyway, we thought, and it may fix itself. Who knows? Those people, anything. Anyway, sorry to tell you about our bad week. That's why things have gotten a little delayed here. That's the end of my report.
Okay. I'm sorry that they're not coordinating like they said they would, and I presume that meanwhile, from that first time when we put in for FEMA money a year and a half ago, however long ago it was, we haven't really had any other big projects where we needed to coordinate between FEMA and OAS. I mean, so I guess OAS hasn't been forthcoming with what their guidelines for procedure was in that space of time.
No, they just changed horses right in the middle of the stream. Everybody.
Yeah. Well, if you need additional people to work on it so that we can get this money, it's big enough money that we want to make sure that you have what you need.
Well, thank you, but I think, it's under control. Teresa has just been grinding it out, and it's not like we don't have the information. It's
right.
Just, we thought it was all going to be, she's worked on it consistently over the year and a half, which was the new way of doing it instead of leaving it for the end. And now we're back to that.
Leave it for the end. Yeah.
I think it'll be okay. We'll get through it. I'll keep you advised.
All right, well, guys, good work. Keep us informed. Let us know what happens between now and next month, or perhaps even in between. If there's anything that you need board action on, we'll be standing by for that.
Great, thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, well, that concludes your report, Jim, and we move on to legal counsel matter, which is Mr. Simmons.
Hello,
Your
can everybody hear me?
Yep, hear you just fine.
Great. I've got a couple cases I wanted to tell you about that I thought would be interesting. They do have potential effect on the district. They both came out last week. And this first one is about special taxes. It's called the City and County of San Francisco versus all persons interested in the matter of Proposition C. Proposition C was a voter initiative, citizen initiative measure on their ballot, which was to propose a special tax to be used for homeless services.
Oh, beautiful.
Passed in San Francisco, but only by a 61% vote, which is short of the 2/3. But because it was a voter initiative, San Francisco went ahead and put it into practice because they said it passed by a simple majority. They were challenged and went through a trial court and then was appealed at the California appellate courts. And the appellate court last week said that they didn't need 2/3 vote. It wasn't subject to Proposition 13 or Proposition 218, that because it was a voter initiative and not proposed by the city or county or a special district, that they didn't need the 2/3 vote. So it appears that voter initiatives, at least at this point, only need a simple majority in order to increase or propose a new special tax.
Okay.
There's a couple of other cases that are very similar to this one that are working their way up through the court system around California. One's in Fresno and another one in Oakland. And so many people think that this will probably end up before the California Supreme Court.
Oh.
The second one is dealt with the California Voting Rights Act. For about 10 years now, there's been a small group of people who've been challenging cities and districts to change their voting from at large to by district because they say that these people are, or these districts or cities are engaged in allowing racially polarized voting. That's a term of art in the California Voting Rights Act. And so far they've been winning. A lot of these cities, I think Modesto and some of the ones up north, have tried to challenge them and that have been unsuccessful. But the new case that just came out from the appellate court last week was called Pico Neighborhood Association versus the City of Santa Monica. And the court there looked at not only whether or not they had racial polarized voting, but whether that voting diluted the voting of the minority involved. In this case, there were Latinos that were worried that their vote was being not taken seriously there. But the court said they found that they hadn't proved their point, that they were, their voting influence was not diluted. And as a matter of fact, the racial representation of the Santa Monica City Council actually is around 30% Latino, where the voters in the city are around 15%. So that actually is for districts that want to keep their voting at large, this is good news for them.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it too is, by experts feel like that will probably end up going up to the Supreme Court as well.
Okay.
The only other thing I have for you is that I know it seems like we're turning around and doing this. We just did this, but this is actually the normal time when the general manager gets his evaluation. And so I wanted to just let everybody know I'll be sending out the evaluation forms so that we can, get them reevaluated like we did a few months ago, and get them tabulated and have a closed session at the end of the August board meeting to talk about this is the normal time period when the general manager should be evaluated. So I know it seems like we just did it, but this is, we're trying to get back on track. Anything else?
I believe we have a standing committee that reviewed that last year, and seeing that we have that standing committee, perhaps we can just use that same committee again for this year's review. Does anybody have any objection to that?
No.
Okay. Great. Then Robert, at some point in the next couple of weeks, we can perhaps meet at the district office and go over that as well.
Okay, great.
Good.
Great.
That's all I've got, President Byers.
Okay, thank you very much. That was interesting news. I knew that that proposition voter initiative, at least for right now, is going our way. That's good news. And what would happen, if I may ask you, if it ends up at the California Supreme Court? We have successfully processed our voter initiative and received a simple majority to increase taxes. Would that be undone, or would that stand at that point if the Supreme Court rules against the simple majority to increase taxes based on voter initiative?
It's a good question. I think it would actually be overturned because of that Supreme Court precedent.
Okay, so yeah, the higher court.
If the court decided that it still needed to get a 2/3 majority.
Yeah.
That's. But if they're very possibly the Supreme Court might uphold it, then you'd be safe.
Yeah, exactly. It's just so. Do you have any feel for it one way or the other? Because it is a lot of work for our residents, our citizens, to go through all this, just to perhaps, if it's a good likelihood that it's going to be undone.
Predicting the results of the Supreme Court is a very dangerous business.
All right.
Right, Ray? I mean, I would say I have a feeling that it should be upheld, but I could very easily be wrong on that.
You can't predict anything that's going to happen in the courts of California. If you got a 51-49 and the thing passes, it's easy to bribe two people instead of 67 to 33. So that's the way why it was set up that way to begin with. But these days, the majority doesn't rule. It's the 5%. So that's why, Jim, they're not selling any of the Donald Trump face masks, because the people want to keep all their teeth. We talked about it yesterday.
Last night.
You can buy any kind. You can't buy any face masks. They're all sold out. But if you want a Donald Trump face mask, they got plenty of them. Because nobody.
She'd be crazy to wear one.
Yeah, they're exactly. That's how people. It's a sad situation.
But on the face of it, at least when you're having the voter initiative, I guess the thinking is going that it is not some committee or some board within a local agency or government agency that is putting this forward, and all they need is a simple majority. It's harder to reach. Whereas the voter initiative, at least it's starting with the citizenry at large. So, I can kind of see why it's been like that and why it may be upheld. That's at least my hope. Okay. Does anybody have anything else to add to this meeting today?
I have a question.
Okay.
Is that Denmark I see outside your window?
It is. It's a painting of northern Jutland.
I thought that was your window, and you would decided to do the meeting from there.
It's a very cool painting from 1904, and if you'll notice that there's no pavement. It is a really bad district there. They didn't even pave the roads.
Yeah.
You need a slurry seal.
Yeah. I really like it. So that's my preferred background these days. Well, everybody, very good meeting. Thank you for all your dedication and input and follow-up. And we will be following up on some of these items. Some of us will. And then we will be seeing all of you in August. Thank you. This concludes the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.